This week's guideline is about eating in the timeless proportion. And I'm going to tell you what that is all about. But before that, I want to tell you that when most of us go on a diet, we are either constipated or we are in a bad mood, or we keep having really poor skin and hair health. And the reason for that is because we try and eat much lesser than what we would actually like to eat. So our focus is so much on appetite control, eating lesser, having soups and salads to eat lesser, maybe even eating fiber gels just to kill our appetite and stuff like that, that we actually don't land up eating in the right proportion. And therefore what happens is that eventually we get off the diet. Now when we get off the diet and begin to eat what we define as normally, we begin to pile on that weight again. And then what we do, instead of figuring out that we did something wrong the very first time, this time we try eating even lesser, but by removing some food groups. So some of us remove roti or rice altogether, someone else may remove ghee, someone else something else altogether. But here's what you need to do. When you eat in timeless proportions, these are the benefits that you can expect. Number one, improved digestion and assimilation. Number two, better excretion, actually coming out of the bathroom feeling light and energetic, like nothing is stuck anywhere in your body. Number three, enjoying good skin and hair health. Number four, having better nutrient status, especially in terms of the micronutrient status, the vitamin D and the B12, iron and the folic acid. And number five, much better satiety levels. So you actually don't feel restless later. You're not looking for chai or coffee or chocolate or cigarette post eating like this. So how do you eat? It's very simple, and this is something which belongs to our collective wisdom. Cultures across India eat exactly like this. Your dadi and nani and ba and fufi and amma and ammi already know how this is done, and this is done practicing on an Indian thali. So all that you do is take a thali, and now here's a little bit of math for you. Half of that thali gets divided, you give half of the thali for the grains. So either your rice or your chapati or the bhakri that you're eating, that's about 50%. On the right hand side, you dedicate about 35% to pulses, vegetables or meat if you are a meat eater. So this is 50% your grains, which have all of the fiber and the proteins and stuff, and they even belong to your region. About 35% to pulses and veggies and meat if you're eating. And the next, and the left hand side ka last 15% goes to chutneys, papads, achar, dahi and a little bit of kacha salad if you like to eat it that way. So this is how you need to be eating it. A lot of times some of you ask me this question, that can I eat rice and roti together? The answer is yes, if it is just about 50% of what you're eating. For some of you who have felt that हर टाइम जब भी मैं दाल राइस खाती हूँ मैं ब्लोटेड हो जाती हूँ, या मुझे मोटा मोटा लगता है, या फिर बाद में मुझे कॉन्स्टिपेशन होता है, that is because you're trying to eat way more dal than the amount of rice that you're eating. So दाल राइस में भी राइस ज़्यादा होना चाहिए, दाल थोड़ी कम होनी चाहिए. It is the proportion of a moong dal khichdi or an idli, the way you soak it. Also when you say हाँ ठीक है आचार पापड़ चटनी सब अच्छा है, लेकिन कितना खाना चाहिए? About 15% of your meal. So if you keep eating like this, 50, 35, 15, or another way to think about it is 3, 2, 1. So if you are able to divide your plate like that, you will land up eating, and you will land up eating light, you will land up feeling light, and you will land up looking also much thinner than what you're currently looking, and with improved skin, hair and nutrient status. So this is what I suggest all of you do. Now while this belongs to our timeless wisdom, here's a quick update that when Canada revised their food guide in 2020, they actually made out a statement that it is not about the portion that you eat, but it is the proportion in which you eat your foods. So for all those of you who think कि चने तो अच्छे हैं पर चना खा के गैस बहुत हो जाता है, तो वो किस वजह से हो जाता है? because you're not eating adequate amount of rice with it, adequate amount of chapati with it. So just get your proportions right.
What's the size of the thali that you're referring to?
What's the size of the thali? Oh, that's a very interesting question. Little kids have smaller thalis, bigger people will have bigger thalis, but irrespective of the size of the thali, get the proportion right. Okay. And I also wanted to say that even when we are not eating a full-fledged meal and we are just eating anything that belongs to our collective wisdom, be it idli, be it dosa, be it poha, be it paratha, be it chila, we invariably follow this wisdom of 50% grains, about 30-35% of dals, pulses, veggies and stuff, and 15% of spices, herbs, masalas and the likes.
So what about meat? Where does it fit in?
Oh, it comes on the right side, so it will belong to that 35%. Which is why, when a lot of people are like, अच्छा meat खाना healthy होता है या पूरा vegetarian बनना चाहिए? It all depends on what proportion are you eating the meat. If it is a part of your meal, if it is the part of that 35%, then it's fine. If it becomes 100% of what you're eating, or even if it becomes 50-60% of what you're eating in totality, that's when you start seeing problems with your digestion, with your moods and the likes.
Can you one more time explain exactly what comes in grains and what comes on the right and what comes on the left?
Alright, here's what comes on the grains. Rice, wheat, bajra, jowar, nachni, kuttu, and all of the grains that belong to your region, which I may not even be aware of. Kodra, kodu, and the likes. In the pulses, which is now on the right hand side, what will come? All kinds of pulses. We have about 65,000 varieties of pulses. So all of those pulses, all of the vegetables which you cook, जो पकी हुई आप सब्जियां खाते हो, उसमें भी बहुत wide range है. And then also meat, so all of these things will come on the right, which is about 35%. और ये last जो left में 15% है, that is for achar, papad, chutneys, kacha salad, even dahi, chas, so bowl of dahi or a glass of chas, all of that goes in the same category, which is why every time you eat this meal, before you start eating the meal, also have a glass of water so that you're well hydrated and you can go about eating in the time tested proportion. Center, right, left. That's how you have to go.
What about sweets? Where do they come in?
Well, sweets come in once in a while for every festival. And here's the interesting thing. While the weight loss industry has made us feel extremely guilty about eating a sweet every time we do eat it, and then the weight loss industry tells us, now that you've eaten a chocolate, you need to go slog it out in the gym the next day. Or we are like, oh, I worked so hard, I earned a pastry. But in the Indian context, every time there is a festival, you do have the sweet and it comes in the center of your thali. So there is, the combinations like puri and shrikhand, or puran puri sometimes, which is also in the center of the thali, kheer. All our sweets come as a part of the whole Indian thali, and they are placed on the center top of the thali, in between the right and the left. I look forward to seeing you next Tuesday at 4 p.m.